Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. How's the sound? I'm not expecting very many people again today because Corey and Jimmy are still going, but we'll give it a shot. See what happens. Somebody chime in and let me know how the sound is. Always have to check the sound on this XSplit. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Thanks, CJ Black. Thanks, JH Aquatics. JH, I'm really enjoying your fish fam news. I'm echoing a lot of other people telling you that was a really good idea. I'm surprised someone hasn't thought about it before now. Hey Victor, welcome to the stream. I'm doing okay. My wife is out shopping, I think. Dank, welcome to the stream, man. Yeah, I do too. I think that's a fantastic idea. Hey Rob, welcome to the stream. Biggies, welcome to the stream. It's pretty informal here. I don't have an axe to grind today, no real topic, so it's basically what you guys want to talk about or questions you might have that I might be able to answer. I'm no serious. Hey Jim, welcome to the stream, man. I really appreciated your comment on my video, man. That's very encouraging. Honey and lemon for cough. Yeah, how about Gatorade fruit punch? It's very encouraging, Jimmy, when somebody who is as excellent at videoing as you are gives me encouragement. Yeah, JH, I enjoy the idea of the Fish Fam news. I enjoy the fact that you don't go too overboard with it. And I enjoy the slight tinge of humor you add to it, too. So I think that's a great idea, and I think you've got a winning proposition going there if you can keep it going. Hey, King, welcome to the stream. Big E says my orders of fish come in the mail dead today. Feel down. All 4 alive. Okay, you're going to have to clarify that. Hey, Captain Spicy. I wanted to talk more about your rubber pleco egg issues. I've got some ideas about it, and I know it's a problem for you right now. Big East, you need to clarify what that statement was. My orders of fish come in the mail dead today. Feel down. All 4 alive. I'm not sure what the all four alive means. There's not much you can do when your fish come in dead. Just hope that your seller will make it good. Hey Laura, welcome to the stream. How's Laura doing today? Yeah, JH, as you get deeper and deeper into the Fish Fam news, I'm sure people will start filtering you inside info to get at each other. Jimmy will give you terrible information about Corey, so you can post insider information about Corey. But it is really a great idea. So Spicy, talk to us about your eggs again, man. Hey Andy Lees, welcome from UK. Oh, okay. So Biggie's only had 4 come in alive, and I'm assuming that's on a larger order. Now wait, was this a shipping order, or did you go buy them at the store and bring them home and only 4 of them are still alive? CJ Black says gossip. Nah, I know. John Williams says, hey, hi Dwayne, first time here due to Jimmy and Aquarium Co-op. Well, that's a great thing. I'm not sure that Jimmy and Corey set their time up to go before me, but I had gotten kind of used to doing this show at this time. Basically, this live stream of mine is a replacement for Bob's live stream. Hey, KP Aquariums. Bob decided he was going to do some hiking this summer, or he wanted to do more hiking this summer, and so he shut down his Saturday show, and basically I just stepped in to kind of fill the void, and I decided to go a little earlier because Bob usually did his about 7 my time, and I just decided to go a little earlier so that when Bob came back, I'd still have a slot. Hey, KP Aquariums, welcome, man. I'm sorry to hear about your split valve, man. That sucks. V-Stag says, how was your early years in fish keeping? Did the smaller amount of products available make it less confusing? Back in the late 70s and the early 80s, I don't think that we really understood that we had less products. I mean, that's kind of an impossible point. You know, if you're raised up in a starving village where everybody's hungry all the time, that's what you get used to. You know, you think that's normal, and I don't think we looked at it like we didn't have enough stuff. There was tons of stuff that we could buy to try to help us in the, you know, there were just as many companies cranking out just as many useless pieces of garbage then as there are now. And wow. Basically, we just picked our way through it all. So I think that's kind of a non-starter question, Victor, because we didn't know any better. You know, we didn't know about all the stuff that would be available in 2010. So basically, we just felt like we were at the cutting edge of fish keeping back then, just like everybody feels like they're at the cutting edge now. KP Aquariums asked me about how my Python is working out. Oh, you did get that valve swapped out. Good. The Python is only useful to me in 2 tanks. One is my wife's 75, but I run a high TDS in that tank, higher than my tap water is. My tap water is at TDS 215 right now, so I can't just pump it in back into my wife's 75. I fill 5-gallon buckets up with it. I can drain it, but then I have to fill 5-gallon buckets up and then add KH and GH back to the buckets to add it back into the tank. One of my videos I showed doing that. But it worked really well in my 110 because I can drain and can add back in straight away. Captain says, that video made me laugh so hard, Dwayne. I didn't get my first python till 2005. Yeah, I've always avoided it, but it wasn't because I didn't like the idea of it. It was always because I was just used to carrying buckets all the time. But I finally got to, hey Rob Hicks, welcome to the stream. I've finally gotten to the point where I can't do it anymore. Okay, let's spend some brain time here with Captain Spicy's issue. He raised this in Jeremy's stream. He's got biofilm building up on rubber lip plecos, L56s. He's got biofilm building up, and he can see the embryos and the eggs, but they suffocate before hatching. And yeah, Captain, that's my first go-to idea, is that the parents just aren't doing their job of cleaning it. But your pH may very well have something to do with it too. There's a lot of information out there about the harder the water is for some loricard and pleco species, that the eggs can't hatch as well if the water's too hard. Laura says, us UK peeps definitely appreciate you going earlier, Dwayne. Well, that's good. I mean, I really didn't do it for so much for the UK. I did it more thinking about if I was going to go ahead and start doing a live stream regularly, that I wanted to give myself a shot at still being able to do it when Bob comes back. And if I had taken his exact slot, he would have taken that slot back when he came in, and I would have had to change. So I enjoy going after Corey and Jim. I always watch their stream, and today we had Jeremy first, and then Corey and Jim, and now me. And I'm not sure who will go afterwards, but I'm sure in the future it will be Bob going afterwards. Hey, doll. Hey, Aquarium Cop, welcome to the stream. And Captain Spicy says, yeah, biofilm builds faster in high pH. I may try dropping the pH first and see if that helps. If not, I might just let the parents learn. You know, I did that fighting your water stream. There are ways that you can slowly bring pH down. You know, tannins in the water, leaf litter, driftwood, plants. Just plant a lot of plants planted in the aquarium will bring it down. Hey, David, welcome to the stream. How's everybody's Saturday going today? Are we all geared up and ready for the last episode of Game of Thrones tomorrow? This is going to be, we're going to have to wait 2 more years for any more. Laura Elaine's presentation is coming along. She's had a lot of issues. Right now she's got a thumb that's really bad. I think it was because of her mouse that she was using, and we got her a new mouse. But it's really rough for her to type with her hand hurting as bad as it does. So everything's causing it to slow down. Dank says my wife wants to try and keep some cichlids with the turtles. I'm going to build some kind of divider the fish can get away from them. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Usually turtles, once they get larger, will definitely try to kill any kind of fish that are in the tank. Basically, that's food swimming around. Hey Susan, welcome to the stream. CJ Black says unloaded and stacked 100 bales of hay this morning. It's a good thing you had help. That is some tough work. I used to hire myself out to do that work when I lived in Arkansas way back in the day, and that is some of the toughest work you can do because you got to keep going as fast as the truck moves. You just got to keep throwing them up there. You have my respect for having done that work. I don't drink. When I was very young, I ingested some moonshine and developed a allergy to alcohol. But some friends of mine, after we got done with one particularly hard day of hay baling, broke out a 6-pack of beer and made me drink some, and I got really drunk really fast off of that. Sweet pig. Razorbacks. For those of you who don't know, any self-respecting Arkansan follows the Hogs in football and basketball. That's University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, where I lived for many years and where I call myself from. I got to watch many different iterations of the Arkansas sports. I've got a picture of my dad holding me when I was about 6 months old, standing over on the hill, and this was in early '55, standing over the hill where the Razorback Stadium, football stadium was. And then I've got a picture some 30-something years later of me holding my youngest right in the same spot overlooking the stadium. It's on the hill up on the, I guess that would be north southwest side of the stadium. Rob Hicks says, yeah, Dwayne, I never inhaled either. Yeah, well, I inhaled. CJ Black says, my alma mater, Lou Holtz, was still there when I was a freshman. Yep, I went to the University of Arkansas myself. I graduated, or I say graduated, I ended up at the University of Tennessee. Hey, Corona Ken, welcome, man. Bushed, I'll just lurk quietly, but hello, everyone, and hope you are all well. So, guys, the topic is up for grabs. You guys can direct the show here. Update on my wife's 75. We did lose the praecox that had, I'm still not exactly sure what it was, but after 3 treatments of malachite green, the fungus on its ulcer or sore or whatever it had on its back did not go away. And after I let the tank clear and did all my water changes, the fungus was back with a vengeance. So I euthanized the fish. Captain Spicy says, you did water changes in the 70s. I didn't. Well, I was in it just at the end of that whole phase of quote, quote, mature water. The thing in the fish keeping hobby used to be that you, whatever kind of water you had in your tap, that you had to put it in a 55-gallon drum and let it mature for 3 or 4 months with an air stone down in it, and that was the only kind of water that you could add to your tanks. Aged water, mature water, yeah. And I got into fish keeping hot and heavy right at the end of that, and I just never really got into that. Now I know that I had plenty of old tank syndrome issues when I was keeping water, when I was keeping fish in the late 70s and early 80s, because like you, I didn't do as many water changes as I should have been doing. You know, you just kind of watched your fish, and if your fish acted like something was going on, then you tried to add some aged water into the tank. And evaporation will take care of a lot of the water out of your tank. But yeah, I had a lot of issues, because what happens is your fish will adjust as the nitrates and the nitrites, all that stuff starts slowly building up in your tank. Your fish will adjust to that. And if you let it go on too long, and then suddenly say, oh, something's wrong, and do a 50% water change, the water change will kill them, because it's such a big adjustment back to good water again. So yeah, I ran into lots of those kinds of issues. I mean, there are still people that say they never do water changes. In Corey's stream, or Corey's video that he did in that great store in San Francisco that Jeanne took him to, that guy never does water changes. So it's possible, you know, it's possible to do that. If you've got a huge plant load in a tank that is constantly removing all of the heavy metals and nitrates and nitrites and eating all the waste, then you don't really have to have water changes so much. You just do top-offs. Yeah, Rob, you're right. We did clean filters more than, but we only cleaned the filters because the flow got low. Yeah, that's, Captain, you bring up a really good point. He says, yup, plants and algae scrubbers. Back then, one of the hot new things in the hobby was to set up a 30 or a 40-gallon tank and put a little bit or a lot of rock work in it, and to like put as much light on it as you could, and get algae to just grow completely out of control in that tank, and then to put it in a cycle with your regular fish tank so that the algae would pull all of the nutrients out of the water as the water went through. And that was our algae scrubbers. That was our refugium. That was our sump, you know. Well, Rob says clean filters twice a week was a good thing in my day. Yeah, well, part of that was, for me, was because I kept a lot of large cichlids. And when you keep large cichlids, they produce a copious amount of waste, and so they will clog up a filter of any sort, and they will dig in the substrata, and all kinds of garbage ends up in the water in the tank, and so they will clog filters really quickly. but I'm sure we're stupefying the poor young people in the chat. They none this stuff is all ancient history to them. But there is good things about these quote quote ancient history things, and that is that a lot of the things that we did back in the day were learned from people that did them long before us, who we were young whippersnappers to, and they did them because they worked. Yeah. Yeah, 1,500 parts per million at nitrate is not so good, Captain. But I've always been a huge fan of the wisdom of, you have to know where you've been to know where you're going, because unless you know the history of either the species you're keeping or the hobby that you're in, you can't really look forward to see where you're headed, or where the hobby's headed, or where keeping that species is headed. Because a lot of the old, very simple, old school ways of doing things actually worked. You want to talk to them for a minute about your they're all asking about your presentation. Okay. I'm going to let my wife step in for a second. She's gotten home from shopping, and is there a bunch of groceries out in the car?
Yes, in the very back, nowhere else.
Okay. Oh, you got you a thumb thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. Rufus, do you need to go outside?
Hello, everyone. I'm the better half, I think, of Dwain. I'm his other half. Anyway, he said some of you had been speaking about or asking about my presentation. It's going to be ready any day. I got slowed down because I put my thumb out of order. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but I have a gigantic bubble of water coming out of under the skin right here, and the whole, I think I have tendonitis with synovitis, which is water in the joint, and this whole tendon along here and this one that goes here are all inflamed. So that kind of slowed me down because I can't type very well. And so I'm behind, and I'm sorry. It looks like it's going to be a few more days till it's out because, as I said, I'm having trouble typing. But when it does come out, you're going to be really shocked and surprised by the things it says about fish vision and how we're treating our fish, and some big changes that we might need to employ. And of course, movements like that start out small, and in about 5 to 10 years they finally get to the corporations that do things like make lights, and that's when you start to see changes. So don't expect any changes from corporations anytime soon, but we can make the changes ourselves. There's ways for us to do that. So that's probably what we're going to have to do, is sort of, what do they call it, sort of Mickey Mouse it, or that's not a very good way to put it, because it actually takes a little brains to figure these things out. So it takes some ingenuity on our part to do that, but I think we're up to it. All the fish keepers that I know are pretty darn smart people, and are pretty good with engineering some little something that they need to do to change things in their tank. So I have faith in you, the fish keeping community. Let me catch up and see what y'all are saying. Uh, Captain Spicy raised paradise fish in huge pickle jars. In a window, no filters. Yeah, but those guys are anabantids. They breathe air. So that makes it a little bit easier. I guess you can do that with most anabantids. Not that it's super easy. You still have to keep things clean and stuff, but as you know, it's a little easier than doing, cichlids or something like that. And John says, no need for me to apologize, just get yourself better first. So I am going to try to do that. I found some exercises on YouTube that I can do to strengthen my tendon and try to get the inflammation out. So I'm going to do all that stuff. And besides, I'm a vegan, so I heal pretty quickly. Don't be surprised if you see on my site, or when you go to download or look at my presentation that I'll turn loose for you here in a few days, if you see something that says 67-year-old vegan, because I'm gonna make videos also about veganism. So you may see that. So don't be surprised. You don't have to watch it. I'm not trying to convert you. And I don't expect you to watch stuff that you're not interested in. Just want to let you know that it'll be there, and don't think that you've got the wrong site. Okay, let's see. What were you guys talking about when I came in? Sounded like you were talking about some old-fashioned way of doing something, but I don't know what it was.
Talking about old school fish keeping.
Oh, old school fish keeping.
Is the van locked?
No, I left it unlocked. I had an aquarium way back in the 60s when I was in college, and I never did water changes on that thing. I never even had heard of a water change. In fact, my friend Jim, we were in Tempe, Arizona. At the time, I was a student at Arizona State University, and my friend Jim had this aquarium, and he decided to move to San Francisco all on the spur of the moment. So he went to San Francisco and brought me this aquarium and said, guess what? You're going to become an aquarium owner and a fish keeper. And I said, well, okay, I'm up for anything. So he turned me loose with a tank that included a couple of blue zebra cichlids and a bunch of mollies and a bunch of swordtails and a few guppies and a couple of angelfish. And there were some territorial spats, believe me. Those blue zebras didn't want anybody getting near the bottom of the tank where they had their housekeeping set up. And of course the other fish wanted to go down there and pick off food that had drifted to the bottom. And that every time they did, they got their fins nipped or got chased away by those darn blue zebras. But anyway, nobody ever told me about water changes, and so all I did was change the charcoal and the floss in the filter. All we used back then were those filters that had charcoal in the bottom and then some floss that kind of looked like fiberglass in the top. And I would change that about, I don't know, every 3 weeks or something like that, and I never had any problems. Of course, the fish I was keeping were pretty easy to keep. But if someone had said, how are your nitrates or how's your pH, I would have said, what? What's that? I know it's very important now, especially since we're keeping a lot more fish from places like Borneo and South America and those places that have really soft water and places that have really, really hard water. And I know we have to cater to those fish, so we're a lot better about that. But back in the day, as they say, water changes were something that most of us knew nothing about. you know, if the bottom of the tank got kind of dirty and there was a bunch of detritus down there, we would vacuum it out and change the water then. But, you know, you could go 3 or 4 months without doing that. So I'm afraid my fish weren't treated all that well, although I tried to be a good fish keeper, but I just didn't know enough. Captain Spicy says his mom had seahorses with macroalgae and just a bubble filter. Wow. I'm impressed by that, because what I know about seahorses is that they're pretty darn difficult to maintain. Were they saltwater or freshwater, Captain? And CJ Black says LFS told me to change water when it smells bad. Yeah, there's a tip for you. I think we probably should smell it long before then, because by the time it smells bad, it's pretty infectious. John Williams says, I don't think we had any kind of test kits. You know, I remember some, but I don't know what they were for. I mean, I saw them, just a couple on the shelves at the fish store, but I didn't pay any attention because I never bought them. When I say back then, I'm talking about the 60s and 70s. That's when I was in college. That was way before most of you were born, I think. But those were some pretty good years. We had the hippie and the free love movement, and I want you to know those were some pretty good years. Sorry you missed them. Litmus paper. Yeah, we could have used litmus paper, I guess, for the pH. Oh, CJ Black was in 1963. Well, those were good years. Let's see, did anybody have any questions for me? I don't know if I can answer them, but maybe somebody in the room can. I decided to break my presentation while I'm waiting for questions. I decided to break my presentation and take your advice and break it into one for fish and one for plants. And, you know, the outcome is kind of similar, but the path to get there is a little different. So I'll do that, and that'll make it easier for everybody to use and to absorb. It won't be such a long thing that you would have to sit through. So right now I think it's at like 31 or 33 slides in the presentation, and I'm going to do commentary in the audio as the presentation goes through, so make it easier for you, because I don't put everything into the written presentation. I just put enough up there to trigger my brain about what it is that I want to say, and sometimes I'll have a picture or an illustration. So that's how I do PowerPoint, because I don't think people really like to read the stuff that's up there and have you read it to them at the same time. That's kind of insulting. And let me back up and say, from being a vision expert, I know that you're only supposed to have like 6 lines of text on a page. So that really reduces the amount of what you can put on a page. And you don't want too many pages so that people have to, you know, sit for an hour or more. We don't want to do that. So I've tried to make it as short and succinct as possible, and I will do the talking through the thing. So let's see, is anybody... V Stag says, I'm excited for your presentation. I love learning. I do too, V Stag. I hope to never stop learning. The day I keel over is the day that they'll say that I stopped learning. And I think people who are lifelong learners are very interesting people. And I found that most fish keepers are lifelong learners. Oh, John says he's new, and what is my presentation about? It's about aquarium lighting for fish. All the aquarium lights that exist now have never considered what's good for the fish and what is good for the fish's vision. And I'm finding some things that might indicate that the lights that we're using are doing some harm to our fish. So I've made a presentation that documents all of that, and I'll take you through that and some of the basically it's a condensation of all the research papers that I've read on your behalf. So I've read those, and now I've sort of synthesized those into a presentation so that you don't have to do all that research. And you can watch the presentation, and then if you have questions, you can question me, or you can there will be a bibliography at the end of the presentation where you can actually check out the articles that I read, the research articles, and go and read them yourself if you'd like to. So I want to always make sure that my presentations are documented so that you yourself can read the whole thing if you'd like to. That's usually pretty important. D-Stag says, did you worry about all the eclipse hype? My wife and the eye doctor she works with didn't like it. Well, I didn't worry about the hype. I think the hype is necessary because you've always got some bozos out there who are just going to go out and stare at the sun. And that's very dangerous. And it doesn't hurt when you're damaging your retina. It does not hurt. There are no pain sensors in the retina. So, you know, you have to sort of protect the lowest common denominator. So yes, I can see where an eye doctor might be annoyed at that. But like I said, there's always some bozos out there that need protection. So we have to sort of go with that. Coronakin says, where can we find this presentation and when is it ready? Well, it's not quite ready yet. I had hoped to have it ready by now, but as I said, now I've hurt my hand, and so it's put me a little bit behind, but it'll probably be in a few days. And you can find it on my channel, which is Jordan Elaine, and that's JORDANNEELAINE. And you'll also be able to find a link to it on Dwain's page, his YouTube page. So it'll be in both places, and you can get to it either place and look at it to your heart's content. Okay, and VSTAG just put a link there to my channel.
Thanks, Victor.
John, the link to my channel there, there's some couple of presentations there about human vision and what the lights that we use do to our vision. So you might want to catch up on that by viewing that. And
some of your qualifications, honey.
My husband wants me to tell you my qualifications. I'm try to be modest about this, but I have worked in the field of vision and lighting for more than 30 years, and vision education is has been my career. And on top of that, part of my vision, what I did in the field of vision was study lighting and what kind of lighting is good for people, especially people that have visual impairments and certain diseases and injuries to the retina. And so I have consolidated all that information and distilled it and put it in a couple of presentations that are on my website. I was trained by the Army in infrared, and I was trained by Dr. Windsor, who's an award-winning optometrist up in northern Indiana, to know about ultraviolet and what it does to the eyes. And as I said, I've been working for 30 years on this. So, and I've written 2 books that are available from the American Printing House for the Blind. And one of them is called LEDs, and it's just about LEDs in general. It's not necessarily about, what you need to do for blind people. So I'll say no more. That's all you need to know about me. And I do have a couple of master's degrees, and so we'll just stop there. So you can judge for yourself whether I'm qualified or not to talk about lighting in fish tanks. But what I have found is that the fish eyes are not very different from human eyes. In particular fish they are, but most fish they're not. And mostly the kind that we keep in our tanks, our tropical fish, are not that dissimilar from our own. And that the danger we do to our own eyes every day, we're also doing to our fish. The damage, I meant to say. So let's take a hard look at that and see if we can't help both ourselves and our fish by changing the lighting. It usually doesn't cost any more than the lighting we're already using. Let's see. Aquarium Co-op says, or Aquarium Cop, I'm not sure which. Elaine, I subbed you and will look forward to your presentation. I hit the bell. Thank you. Well, thank you, Aquarium Cop. I'm very appreciative. And John said he just jumped over and subbed. So thank you, John. I appreciate it. And thank you, Victor, for putting that link up there. And CJ Black just jumped over and subbed. Thank you, CJ. Appreciate that very much. Dwayne, do you want to come wrap this up? Oh, Dwayne's having a smoke. He'll be in just a minute. So
I didn't put away your ton of veggies.
I will put them away. I just went to the store and bought a bunch of veggies. So, okay, you gonna wrap this up, honey?
Yes.
Alrighty.
Does the thing on your thumb help?
Yes, it does.
Keeps it from moving.
And it keeps it from hurting too. Puts a little bit of traction on it.
Don't let her fool you guys. She's definitely interested in converting you to veganism. She's trying to convert me, but it won't work, I'm afraid. We should probably all be vegans. We'd be better off health-wise. Hey, Jeremy. Welcome to the stream, man. I enjoyed your post swap meet stream a lot. Okay, guys, we're getting close. If anybody's got any last questions they want to get in, my wife didn't have her computer open, and I don't know her password, so I couldn't get on as her and leave you a direct link. She said that Victor gave you a link. I will, when her presentation comes out. She's still got to record her voiceover, and I'm sure we'll have to go through some hoops to get that done, but I think she's getting close on her PowerPoint part of the presentation being done. And I think it's going to be kind of shocking in some ways. You know, we as fish keepers think of lighting as what the lighting companies sell us to use, and it may make our fish look better to us, but as her presentation will tell you, it may not be the best thing for our fish. So I'll just leave it at that and let you guys be the deciders when the video comes out, when her PowerPoint comes out. I think she's gone through some really great research, and that it's going to be something that will open your eyes. She's had a lot of experience working with vision, And as much as fish and humans are different, um, their eyes are not all that different. Eyes are not something that has changed all that much in the sense of evolution over the years. Fish eyes have evolved to see in a slightly different habitat than human eyes have, but we're basically all working with the same genes. So Valley Fish says he's late. Was painting my new 20 high. I really like 20 highs. I've kept a lot of them in my fish keeping experience, and a 20 high is a nice footprint for a tank. But welcome to the stream, Valley Fish. You missed my wife giving a little update on her PowerPoint, and the rest of us basically commiserating about how it was back in the day when we kept fish. So if someone has a few last questions to get in or topics of discussion, I'm open. Yeah, 20 high is a good footprint. Spicy says he used it as a refugium for his 75. It's a nice one. The 29 gallon is a nice tank as well. Breeder 40s are really nice, 40 longs are a really nice tank footprint. You don't see them a lot anymore, not near as much as there used to be. That 50 gallon low boy that a lot of people have is a really nice footprint for a tank too. I think it's more of the old type of frag tank. Valley Fish says really excited about it. Always wanted this tank. They had 3. If I had a room, I would have bought them all. Yeah, those are nice tanks. I used to keep a lot of them back in the early 90s and the late 80s. I was line breeding Jack Dempsey's. I didn't know it at the time, but I guess what I was going for was the electric blue Jack Dempsey, because I was breeding for density of spangles and intensity of color, and I had a ton of 20 highs that I used to grow out some of my smaller. Jack Dempsey's can drop about 800 eggs, a pair can, and once they get a little older and a little more used to breeding and egg laying and parental care, and so I was getting tons of Jack Dempsey babies to grow out, and I would turn those into the pet store. The ones that I culled, I would turn them into the pet stores, and down in Dallas, Texas. I lived in Plano, Texas at the time, and I'd turn them in for food and tanks and all that stuff. I'd get them up to 3/4 of an inch, which was where I could begin to see the spangles on them, what their adult spangles were going to look like, and that's when I did my culling, 3/4 to an inch. And so I think I was getting 25 cents a piece for them back in the day. But if I turned in 600 or 700 of them, I could buy a tank, buy a new fish that I wanted to keep that was other than what I was breeding. Bob has gotten a lot of mileage out of his for-profit tank, and I got a lot of mileage out of my for-profit breeding Jack Dempsey's, but I didn't make money off of it. I just kept my hobby going, basically, is what it is. growing out that many fry takes a ton of food, and so I was going through a lot of large food bags. So mostly what I was doing is paying for my food. Captain Spicy says he's hoping to set up a new marine tank this week. Oh man, I'm glad it's you, Captain. I don't think I'm ever going to do a marine tank. Yusuf Bashir says sub to me and give me a shout out. You got your shout out, Yusuf, but it's not a good idea to go on someone else's stream and try to beg for subs. So you'll find my mods will usually knock you out if that's what you're doing. Valley Fish is working on a guppy trade with another YouTuber for stocking. Looking forward to the project. Yeah, guppies give you a chance to really see the whole picture of breeding and generations really quickly. So they're a good fish to fiddle around with if you're interested in breeding and strains and all that kind of stuff. V-Stag said, I agree. I've read all my wife's college books on vision. It made me a much more careful welder. I love being able to see all the world's beauty. I didn't know that you were, I'm assuming that that's welder as in TIG welding or MIG welding or just regular welding, Victor. Yeah. You really got to watch your eyes when you're a welder. I learned that the hard way in shop in high school. I spent way too much time watching out of the corner of my eye welders working on the other side of the shop. Doesn't matter how the canvas was spread, you could always still see the actual welding. All right, guys, we're coming up on an hour, and I'll wrap it up here. I'm not sure who is next. In the winter time, Bob would probably be coming up pretty quickly, but for now, Victor is asking if I'm going to Chicago. Yes, Victor. My wife and I will both be there. We will be there all 3 days.
Love to meet him.
What, honey?
We would love to meet him.
And my wife says that she will be happy to meet everybody, and I feel exactly the same way. Got nothing but love for my fish fam, and you guys are all important to me, and I am looking so forward to meeting everybody at Chicago. I couldn't go last year because of health issues, or I would have gone last year. I went instead to the Ohio cichlid extravaganza later in the year, and I'm really glad I went to that too. David, thanks for your time too, man. You guys all have a good rest of your Saturday and rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you on the next go around. Good luck, YouTube.